Hello everyone, I'm going to talk about employment. Our group is made up of Greta Nagy, Umayman Motawakil, and Laura Farfan. Okay, I'm going to talk about basic definitions. It constitutes part of the Europe 2020 growth strategy and it's implemented through the European semester. The employment strategy contains these 4 steps. First of one is employment guidelines, are common priorities and targets for employment policies proposed by the Commission. The second one is the Joint Employment Report. It is based on the assessment of the employment situation in Europe, the implementation of the employment guidelines, and assessment of the scoreboard of key employment and social indicators. The third one is national reform programs, are documents issued by the EU member states to the European Commission on an annual basis detailing the specific policies they will implement to boost jobs and growth and prevent or correct imbalances. Their concrete plans to comply with the EU's country-specific recommendations and general specific rules. The fourth one is country reports are based on the assessment of the NRPS published by the Commission about member states' economic policies. Now I'm going to talk about basic definitions about these 5 terms. The first one is employment package. It identifies the EU's biggest job potential areas and the most effective ways for EU countries to create more jobs. The second one is the Youth Guarantee. It's a commitment by all member states to ensure that all young people under the age of 25 years old receive a good quality offer of employment. The other one is Right at Work, which contains the following: health and safety at work, equal opportunities for women and men, protection against discrimination, and labor law. Undeclared work, any paid activity that are lawful as regards their nature but not declared to public authorities. And flexicurity, integrated strategies for enhancing at the same time flexibility and security in the labor market.
And here we can see the improvement of employment target within the European 2020 strategy. We remind that the main objective in the employment part is to achieve a 75% employment rate for the population aged between 20 and 64 years old. So as we can see in this graph, the improvement of this rate is remarkable. The employment rate moved from 70.2 in 2008 to 73.2 in 2018. So it knows a fast increase from 2013, and we can conclude that if it keeps increasing at the pace registered from 2013, the European employment target will be within reached in 2020. And we have in this part more details of this employment according to some criteria. For example, in the employment rate by age group, we mentioned that the age group between 55 and 64 years old increased at a pace since 2010. It has risen from 45% in 2010 to 58.7% in 2018, while other groups' age are modestly increased. In terms of employment rate by sex, for females it increased from 61% in 2010 to 65% in 2018, and for males, the employment rate moved from 73% in 2010 to 79% in 2018. But we still can recognize an existent gap between the females and males. Finally, for the employment rate by education attainment level, the three education level groups have marked almost the same degree of raise, especially from 2015 to 2018, but still, tertiary education occupies the highest rate. To sum up, the European Employment Strategy reached until 2018, in general, 73.2% from its target for 2020, which is 75%, in which the employment rate by sex increased with 11.6%, but still we have a gender gap. The employment rate by age group increased to 64.8% in 2018, but the population aged between 20 and 29 years old decreased with minus 0.8% since 2008. Moreover, we have some other criteria for employment rate. The employment rate by educational level that increased in general to 64.8% in 2018. In terms of employment rate by country of birth, it increased to 64.5%, but the employment rate for people born outside the European Union decreased with 1.5% since 2008. Finally, by degree of urbanization, the employment rate achieved 73.1% in 2018.
And lastly, I would like to share some interesting facts. Since the Europe 2020 strategy has been launched in 2010, the difference in the employment rates between men and women, which is the so-called gender employment gap, decreased. The gap narrowed from 15.1 percentage points in 2008 to 11.6 percentage points in 2018. Another important figure is that in 2018 both employment rates increased, but women's employment rates increased nearly 4 times more than men's. This indicates that women catching up with men in the labor market. Now, some figures about how countries managed to achieve the employment goals so far. The overall target employment rate is 75% in the EU, but every country has its own target as well. For example, Hungary has a target of 75%, and in 2017 the country's employment rate was 73.3%. In 2017, Spain and Greece were the furthest away from their own target rates. In Spain, the employment rate should be 74% by 2020, but in 2017 it was only 65.5%. Regarding Greece, the target to achieve by 2020 is 70%. In 2017, it was only 57.8%. In this slide, you can see the target and the 2017's employment rates. Some countries like Sweden have already achieved their targets. And to sum up and finish our presentation, a few words about the current situation. It is clear that the coronavirus presents a significant threat to the stability of Europe's jobs and SMEs. Italy was still 4 percentage points away from its target employment rate in 2018, but due to the epidemic, it is the least important issue. the EU considers setting up the European Employment Protection Facility. Following the example of the European Financial Stabilization Mechanism created in 2010 during the Great Financial Crisis, this would be a temporary body that implements employment protection programs. It would give workers the protection they need when facing the economic effects of the pandemic, while also providing the economic stimulus needed to foster growth. We don't know what will happen in the future, but if the EU members will cooperate, the growing of the economy may continue. Here you can see our sources.